Yes.
nominations for board chair? Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mary Niles.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mary Niles as board chair, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Mary. Thank you. So now,
To the grand prize.
so now I'm gonna
Big
have you
surprise.
vice chair, clerk, sick bank representative.
Okay. So we'll take nominations for the vice chair.
I'll nominate Jean Marie.
Well played.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Jean Marie as the vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Aye.
Okay. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Lynn, you said what's next?
Clerk?
Oh, clerk, all right. Who's the current clerk?
I don't know the answer to that. Morgan's looking though.
Going back to last year. Reorganized.
Any
Looks
nominations?
like. It was you.
I'll do a better job. I will remember. Okay, so we then definitely need a nomination for clerk. Any nominations? Any suggestions?
I nominate Pam.
Did you do that last week?
I did. I figured you need practice.
I do.
How do you feel about that, Pam?
What do you need to do? I mean, just like.
It's such a busy job that she remembers that she had it.
Apparently, very little, okay.
So if
Sure,
the
yeah.
chair and the vice chair were not here, you would open the meeting. You would run the meeting. And potentially take notes if we didn't have someone taking notes. We usually take care of it.
Okay.
Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sick bank representative?
Oh, okay. Who's currently doing that?
Leanne Trombley.
She's on the new board,
And she is on the,
I think.
right?
Yeah,
She's on-
she's the Berkshire.
Yes, she's the Berkshire rep to the new board.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Leanne for that spot.
Job
Any other
security.
nominations? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Someone can let her know.
I'll be that person.
Is that it, Lynn, for posts for reorganization? So I'm now.
So now you take it. It's all you.
Okay.
So now you're gonna do your
All right.
consent agenda.
Not planning on that, all right, so, consent agenda then, for the previous minutes, reports, and, the second policy reading. Any discussion, concerns, issues on any of those three items under the consent agenda?
Make the motion, we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Preview and prioritization, we can just move forward then with visitors.
I think that if we could do, we have visitors to talk about, well, under Heather Moore's part, and we also have a personnel visitor.
Okay.
Who's here to have a conversation about something under mine, but maybe we could take that one after Heather's.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
or before, either way.
Yeah, either is fine, whatever works best for the visitors. So,
Whatever you want to do.
all right, so Heather, do you want to start then?
Sure, so we're here, not sure how much information you got, but I have Tegan Dusa from Enosburg Middle High School and Beth Franklin County Communities. We're here because we're working on a new substance prevention project, and we're looking for support. At this stage right now, we're still in the planning and development stage, so we're just looking for preliminary support saying, please continue to do the research, and at some point we'll come back with more information. So has anybody heard of the Iceland model or Planet Youth? Just kind of gauging the audience first. It's just a little bit of information. It has been around for about 20 years. Has a lot of data showing that it does a lot towards substance prevention. And Iceland, I think, was over 50% of their youth at one point were using substances, and it's down to 5% now once they switched to this model. And every place that's been doing it has seen similar forms of success. So the model is, it's a holistic model, so it's schools and community to get working together. And it starts off with a survey that's done in the schools, and the survey is done every other year. So it'd be the opposite years of the YRBS. So the survey does some risk questions and many protective factor questions and community-related questions. And then the second stage is somebody from Planet Youth would come to the school and talk to the teachers and the faculty about the results within 3 months of taking the survey. And then there's a series of community-wide meetings. And what happens at the community-wide meetings is they take the survey results and the analysis, and they come up with a community plan on how to make some changes within the community to address whatever it is the results are in the survey. An example is in one community, the results were the majority of the parents didn't know where their kids were after dark. And statistically speaking, if you don't know where your kids are after dark, they're about 3 times more likely to engage in risky behavior. So the community came together and they came up with a solution on maybe how to support the parents to know where their kids are after dark. So that's some of the work that they do. What we're looking for with the school support is we're going to have the permission to do the survey within the schools. We can choose to have it be an opt-out survey, so that means families can say they don't really want to participate, and so their particular children don't have to do the survey. The survey is completely anonymous. And often the schools host the meetings, and we're looking to do this at Richford Junior Senior High and Enosburg Middle High School. It's geared towards middle and high school level students for the substance prevention. And we have a lot of partnership. Vermont After School is really spearheading this statewide. They're looking to offer some funding for the program. And we were at a meeting, there's about close to 40 different partners at a presentation about 2 months ago. And then Tegan can talk about what she's doing at the school level, and Beth a little bit more as a community partner.
Yeah, so just to kind of add on to what Heather was saying, first of all, I'm the SAP in Enosburg in the middle and high school, so I work with students to screen and refer them to substance use counseling or mental health counseling. And right now, we have something in place called the tobacco grant, and the difference between that grant and what we want to do now is that this new Planet Youth or Iceland model project is really a shift in theory. So instead of the tobacco grant, we focus on education, we focus on kind of maybe some scare tactics, a little bit traditional prevention, and we're feeling like we could be doing a lot more. And we feel like this project will give students something to do instead of telling them what not to do. And what's cool about this project is that it's very locally driven, so the results that we get and the mentorship that we're going to get is going to be specific to our community. And I just think that instead of trying to help students to kind of like fight against substance use or fight against mental health disorders. We're kind of like changing the environment. So they gave a really good analogy at the training that instead of trying to like fight the current, we're changing the current so the students can and the youth can really thrive and be happy and healthy. So, you know, that's what I'm excited about. I mean, there's a whole lot in that, in the theory and presentation that we could talk a lot about, but, you know, that's what I'm excited about, is to try some new things. And then we also had Beth Crane here with us to talk about some of like the community partnerships. And we're all kind of like working together to try to implement this. So in my SAP grant, which funds my position, along with the SAP in Richford, we did write in some of these initiatives, so we'd have some funds potentially to do some like youth work and leadership work to implement this stuff. So, I don't know,
I'll say a little bit too.
yeah.
So at Franklin County Caring Communities, we do focus on both positive youth development and substance abuse prevention, and we have programs like a mentoring program at the most sort of direct service level. We're always looking for mentors, so I'll put in a plug right now for any of you who would like to mentor a child in the community or a young person. We also sponsor a program called Teen Institute, and we're going into our third year. Richford, Enosburg, BFA Fairfax have been very much involved in the past 2 years. We're adding MBU this year, and working on and working with BFA, and we think we'll have them on board. So there's a lot of things that we are doing that I think will contribute and dovetail nicely with what's going on in this program. One of our concerns was looking at the Youth Risk Behavior Survey for 2017 when it came out. And it came out very late. It came out almost a year and a half after, I guess, a little less than that. And so the data was fairly old by the time it actually kind of hit the public. But Franklin Northeast rates, particularly around alcohol use, had really gone up significantly, and there's been pretty much a downward trend for the past 15, 20 years, and that sort of jumped up, and so that was a real eye-opener for us, and we had a lot of concerns, and we wondered what we could do, what we needed to be doing more in the way of community engagement and bringing schools and communities together more productively and collaboratively around reducing that risk. And other things also, like, as everybody knows, vaping hit the streets and the schools, and marijuana use also went up in Franklin Northeast. And so, all of those things were definite red flags for us around what's going on with young people and how can we support the whole community and to support the school and the students. So, we plan to have an active role in helping to mobilize the community around this effort.
Yeah, and what's nice about it is that it's a really like unified community effort. It's not about just the schools. Like, it's not something like another thing for the schools to do. It's not another thing for like the town to do. It's everybody together, and we're not working separately anymore, which is why we thought it was important for all three of us to be here to show that we are unified and we want to make things better.
Yeah. Any questions about it?
Do you all see trying to get into the other three middle schools? You mentioned Enosburg and Bridgeford, but with Berkshire, Montgomery, and Bakersfield, those middle schools, would you eventually try to?
Potentially, yeah. So part of in the conversations was how broad to make this, and since this is a pilot, the original thought was Enosburg. And I was like, well, it'd be nice to also to get both of the high schools. But there's going to be a learning curve with the community meetings and the facilitation of that. So we thought 2 communities is probably where we like the maximum that we should do for the first part. But then we can start and then we can build another contract for starting 2 years later with the other schools too, if we're finding it successful. For sure, yeah. I know like, the state of Vermont, is definitely looking into this being, a big movement within the state. Too, so it might eventually just trickle into all the other schools. But from what I'm hearing, they're really looking for some piloting communities to really get this going.
And I think also like in the SAP grant, we wrote in an opportunity for schools to get some of those funds within like the wellness and prevention realm. And so that would mean like extending some of this stuff out to the other schools with some guidance around what to do and how to implement the funds. So we definitely are reaching out to the other schools, but just not like with the surveys.
Right,
per se.
and I foresee parents of students that are coming from the other towns being invited to the community meetings because it is about like their school community too for their students or their children. So it's not meant to be isolating the other communities at all.
And do you plan to let parents see the survey in advance of sending out the permission slips so they know what kind of questions and topics are being covered by the survey? I asked because we had an issue recently where a survey was on suicide and kind of social media for a student's project in 8th grade, and I felt I didn't want to sign the permission slip until I knew what kinds of questions, because it's such a tender topic.
I don't have the answer to that, but I do know that one of the employees of Planet Youth said that a parent was not happy with one of the questions, and then they actually changed the question based on the feedback from the parents. And I know that there's a core survey, and then we can also opt in to have other questions added if there's something particular that the main survey doesn't cover that we think is important for our community. But I have not seen the survey questions, and I haven't gotten into that level of detail with determining contracts and stuff.
My guess would be for something like this, that they wouldn't give you the whole survey, but they would give you the context of the topics that would be addressed within the survey.
And because sometimes, if we're looking at middle school to 12th grade, there are questions that you might ask a 12th grader or an 11th, 12th grader that you wouldn't necessarily ask a 6th or 7th grader in that, about these subjects. So if it's that broad, then you just want to kind of make sure that they're age specific and developmentally appropriate for the age group that you're targeting.
Right.
And I think we can choose a target grade or couple grades as well. So once we have access to the survey, I think maybe having a team or something look at the questions and try to determine what grades it would be most beneficial and appropriate. That's something we could do.
I do feel like reviewing the survey questions was part of it. So part of the project will be hiring a coordinator of this. So the plan is to have it fall under the LEAP's jurisdiction, because we have that after school and school-wide flexibility. And so the coordinator would be responsible of connecting with the school, helping to figure out a day to have the survey, determining if it's going to be a paper survey or electronic survey, and then how to get the survey to the school and back to Planet Youth, and then organizing those community meetings.
Could you talk a little bit about the collaboration and the grant funding that you're seeking to be able to pay for that portion of this project?
So there's about, right now we're looking at 3 different grants for funding different pockets of this. So Vermont After School, I have a letter of interest out to them for funding the coordinator position and the survey itself, so that it's not, we're not asking the school to pay for the surveys. And then Tina mentioned about the SAPS grant. Yeah. And then Franklin County Caring Communities also has another grant out for funding positions for community work as well. So right now we're looking at this to be funded through community grants.
How does the survey differ from the whatever the?
IRBS.
Yeah, how does the survey differ from that one?
Well, it talks more about protective factors, which are, like, what are things that will make youth want to make positive choices, like parents knowing where they are, having dinner with parents, knowing who their neighbors are, what are the positive things that they do after school, or like the third space, which is anywhere outside of school, and home. But it also, you get the data back in 3 months, along with analysis specific to your community, which is different from YRBS, where it takes about 1.5 years. Sometimes I've heard that it can be almost 2 years. So by that point, there's already like a new wave of substances out, or the kids have moved on and like they're in college now, they're not in our community anymore. So it's hard to use old data like that, but when you're getting the data back in 3 months, you can make changes within the next month, depending on the communities. And then it comes with analysis, and then Planet Youth, they will come and help the community through their action plans. So they want each community to come up with about 3 to 5 action plans. They don't want to overwhelm any community. They let the community come up with their own action plan, so Enosburg's action plan might look different than Richford's action plan because we are different communities. And they're there to guide us or give us suggestions, because they've seen it through other communities, so they have a cue of what's worked here, knowing that it might not work for us, so we can either take their suggestions or just do it ourselves. It's up to us. So it comes with a lot of support instead of just here's the data, figure it out yourself.
Yeah, the YRBS is just, it's good, but it's really limited. You know, we don't get the support or the diagnostic or anything after that. There's no like plan. It's just like, here's your data, do what you want, kind of. So that's a big difference, I would say. And there's probably a lot of different questions as well, more in depth.
I think that one of the biggest differences is focusing on relationships and community dynamics, which isn't something that the YRBS really focuses on. They're really focused on the risk behaviors.
And then you'll do another survey 2 years from whenever or whatever to assess.
Our goal, I believe, if I'm wrong, is to do one every other year. So we'd have this Planet Youth or Iceland Model one, and then next year YRBS, and then next. So they wouldn't be doing 2 in 1 year anyway.
Yeah, but the Planet Youth program is 5 years, so there'd be 3 surveys.
Okay.
Tonight.
Are you just looking for their support tonight for us to move forward?
Yep, at some
with
point, if we
exploring
decide
this?
to do this, if all the funding comes through and we decide to do this, we will have to sign a memorandum of agreement for the 5-year program. And at that point, we'll have more information about like what all that would entail then, but we just want the support before we keep moving forward with this.
Do you think we need a motion or just kind of?
I don't know that you need an emotion. I think that they're really just looking to see that you're in support of this, there's no one in opposition of this, because you don't have the memorandum yet. I don't think you need a motion.
Yeah, okay.
So I think I'm seeing that the board is supportive of them continuing to explore this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and we can, there's the presentation that we were part of about 2 months ago. It was videotaped, so we're happy to share that with anybody. It was the head of pediatrics from Chile was one of the presenters, and a Planet Youth person who was former principal, current professor. They were both there, so they look at the medical perspective of why this is important, and then kind of the educational family perspective of why this is valuable. So we can share that presentation with everybody to give some more information.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for presenting.
Heather, before you leave, I just wanted to congratulate you on the grant that I know you worked really hard on. So on behalf of this board and all the other boards, thank you for your effort there.
Appreciate that. Thanks, I'm excited to have 5 more years.
So are we.
Who was the other
Other
visitor?
visitors, see Claudia and Greg snuck in. I didn't see him when I said that earlier.
Okay.
You have another board member back there.
Oh, okay. So Claudia, yes? Next? Yeah.
Most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm Claudia Woodward. I'm the early childhood teacher, director, and special educator at Montgomery Elementary School. I've been there, I think, 9 or 10 years in various capacities. I'm also licensed K through 6. Over the last few years, I have become more observant as a Jew, and I feel that it's important to my faith that I observe certain religious holidays that happen during the school year. So I've come before you today to ask for some additional personal days beyond the 3 that we are given in our master agreement. This year, I am asking for 9 additional personal days. And before your jaws drop, as mine did when I realized what I was asking this year, last year I asked for 5, the year before I asked for 2. And I'm not deliberately making a progression here. I said, what's going on? So I actually looked up to see what this would look like over the long run, and there's an interesting pattern of how the holidays fall with school vacations and weekends. And there seems to be a pattern of 1 or 2 additional days beyond my 3. So when I give these numbers, I'm talking about days that I'm asking beyond the 3 I'm already given. 1 or 2 days, 5 or 6 days, 9 days. And then it drops back down to 1 or 2 days, 5 or 6, 9 days. So it's an interesting pattern. I don't know the cycle, but it averages to about 5 days per year. It's just how it works with weekends and vacations and the Jewish calendar. So I don't know, Lynn, if you were able to make copies of that for people?
I have it for them to look at. They'll review this. They'll ask you if they have any questions, and I'll pass this around. I just want to clarify one thing, though. You had mentioned that you received 5 additional personal days this past year, and what the board approved was 5 additional unpaid days.
Yes.
So,
did I not say that?
well, there's a different definition. So personal, they're unpaid days.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. So that's what you're asking for today?
Yes.
Is 9
Well, you're welcome to
unpaid?
give them to be paid.
Good for the clarification.
To be honest, I have been advised by many people unofficially, just call in sick. You've got 65 sick days. Yeah, I could. But I'm not going to call in sick and lie to my principal to go pray. So I do have a line. The 5 unpaid days this year costs me about $1,000 after taxes. So 9 will cost me close to $2,000 after taxes. But this is what I feel I need to do for myself, for my faith, which also makes me a stronger teacher. Any questions?
I did have one and it slipped out of my head now. So last year you asked for 5 and we granted that, I guess is what my question was, yeah, okay.
5 additional unpaid days.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can come back to this at
Yeah.
the end under personnel.
Okay.
If you have any questions in the meantime for Claudia.
And you feel like after next year, it will go back to 2 days again?
I actually,
Is that what
I
you're
didn't bother
saying?
printing this for all of you, it seemed like too much. So for this school year, 18-19, 19-20, for the school year 2021, I'll be asking for 1 additional day. 21-22, it's either 5 or 6, depending on when the April vacation falls. 22 to 23, if I haven't retired, I may have retired by then, I'll be asking for 9 again.
Okay.
And then it drops down to 2, and then 6. So it's when I looked at that, I was amazed to see there was a definite 3-year cyclical pattern. Obviously, we are a rural community. In larger urban areas, the spring vacation is usually Passover. That's 4 of the days I'm asking for. This year, Passover happens to be starting this Friday night. It falls on vacation this year. It very rarely happens.
Mm-hmm.
In urban areas, it is always scheduled that way. Lamoille South, I think it's Lamoille South Supervisory Union, actually has taken their October day off, and they've put it on Yom Kippur. So, as opposed to just a random day, the whole school has Yom Kippur off, the whole district. So, I'm not asking for that. We're a rural community. There's not a large Jewish population here. There is a Jewish population here, but it's not large. I would never expect the calendar to be adapted to my needs. I could always move to the city if that's what I wanted.
I remembered my question, and when you said per year, you mean for the next academic year?
Academic.
Right, okay.
I'm currently in the year that I have 5
I have
unpaid
asked.
personal days
Okay,
for.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm at the 19, 20 line.
Gotcha.
I'm wanting to ask earlier.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
This past September, I was actually not able to address the meeting. Lynn brought it up to your attention because it was Yom Kippur. I actually couldn't come because it was one of my high holy days already, so.
Any other questions? I will get back in touch with you, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will not be at school tomorrow. I
Okay.
have taken a sick day.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
So Jody and Jennifer.
Are you
Oh,
here
I'm
as
sorry.
visitors, Greg?
If you guys would like to listen to me for a few minutes, I would be.
Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely. Apologies.
That's good.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I did a public information request with Morgan about the cost of legal advertising for the FNESU districts, FNESU school districts. Until about 2 years ago, FNESU used the County Courier pretty much exclusively for legal ads. Our legal ad rate is 17 cents a word in a classified ad. If it's a display ad, like an employment ad, for instance, it runs $4.50 to $4.75 a square inch. We don't charge per square inch, we charge per column inch, which is 2 square inches. But a square inch is easier for most people to understand, and a square inch is a little bit easier to compare apples to apples when you're comparing other publications. Approximately 2 years ago, a decision was made, I don't know if it was at board level or internally, to change the legal ads and almost all the employment ads to Messenger. As a comparison, the decision was made to switch from paying 17 cents a word to 25 cents a word for classified ads. That's a 38% increase. For display ads, whether they're classified or, for display ads, whether they are employment or legal ads, the increase was 43.75% to go to Messenger. I do also want to mention that that is going from a color publication to a black and white ad. The timing with this, and I've had this conversation with Lynn in the past, corresponded with the beginning of us reporting on Act 46. Jay was superintendent at the time, and he was very upset with the way we were reporting on Act 46, and he made it very clear to me that he would no longer be advertising with us. Certainly from a financial point of view, that did not make sense from the FNESU level, but that's what was done. There were a few ads after that, and after Lynn took over as superintendent. There was an ad that was inadvertently put in a week early, and then subsequently run the correct week that following warning cycle for the annual meeting. And that was the last time there was any advertising for legal ads with the County Courier. When we realized that those ads were put in a week early, we made sure that they ran again, so that they ran in that 30 to 40 day time period and did not charge for the first run. So I did not have a chance to add up what all the advertising totaled, but it's pretty clear that if you can be saving 38 to 43%, this is the correspondence and legal ads just for Enosburg. This one is I'm not sure what town that is, but you can see that there's a lot of legal advertising that FNESU does. And it seems to me that it's not wise from the taxpayer's point of view to be paying 38 to 43.75% more for the same advertising. In addition, I do want to point out that in order to get the advertising rate that you're getting with the messenger on display ads, employment ads, for instance, you have to do 4 ads. With the county courier, you were usually doing 2 to 3. So not only are you paying more per square inch, but you're being forced to purchase an additional 1 to 2 ads. I guess I would take questions.
Do you publish weekly, monthly, and how do your subscription or numbers compare to the messenger?
So we publish every Thursday, and in this area, in the FNESU area, our subscription rates and saturation rates are far greater than the messenger.
Based on?
Based on talking to people at newsstands, knowing what our numbers are in the individual towns, knowing what the messenger has for subscription rates in St. Albans City. If you subtract their published data with what I've talked to employees of the messenger, what their saturation rate is just in St. Albans City and town, they would get under what our subscription rate is in these 5 towns. So I would very strongly say that we have a better saturation rate around here than the messenger does. Being a weekly, it is a little bit different. Being a weekly, a publication stays around longer. So if somebody picks it up, it sits on a kitchen table all week, right? Somebody picks up the messenger, by the next day, it's old news, it gets tossed. Your employment ads, your legal ads also get mixed in with a much larger group of legal and employment ads, much of them from their other newspapers like the Essex Reporter, Colchester Sun, Milton Independent. A lot of employers get discounted rates when they advertise in all 4 of their publications. So because of that, your readers are having a much harder time finding those ads. If they're trying to follow what all the legal ads are, you pick up the Courier, there's a handful of legal ads. You pick up the Messenger, and it's mixed in with 3 or 4 pages of content. Not to mention that if you're specifically looking to keep up with legal ads, you pick up the Courier for $1 a week at the newsstand. The Messenger charges $1.50 per issue at the newsstand times 6. So that's $9 a week compared to $1 a week. So if somebody's unemployed, they're looking for a job. If somebody's underemployed, they're looking for a job. They're probably not spending that $9 a week that they don't have. They're more apt to be spending the $1 a week.
Can I ask, it sounds like you allude to the fact that you've had a conversation with Lynn and/or Morgan. I'm curious as to why you are before us tonight.
I had a conversation with Lynn about this about 2 years ago. That's the last time I had a conversation with her about this specific topic. Right, so about 2 years ago. You know, the FNESU office certainly knows what the prices are. I'm assuming that the board probably has better things to worry about than knowing what the prices are. And so I have assumed that it's probably flown under the radar. So that's why I thought I would approach the board. I don't think anybody here is blatantly saying, oh, let's spend extra money just to not have it here or there. I think most of you probably are a little blindsided to it, and I'm here to educate you.
I do have a question about your freedom of information request. So I don't know how many people else on the board, but I think you sent it to everybody. I think you sent it to all the boards everywhere.
Yes.
And I think that you said in there that you called, so you sent emails and you actually had called,
Yeah,
I
so
think
that was
5
a
or
different
6 or
issue.
7 times.
And I don't have documented with me, I called a number of times to leave messages, emailed a number of times before that and through that period. I would call to make sure that a request was received. There was a very extended period of time where it seemed that the request was being ignored. Through later investigation, we found out that the FNESU server was weeding out all of the emails coming from the courier. Lynn might know more why,
Well, it
but
had to do with your spam rating. So something was triggering it to go straight to the spam file. So
so I believe actually you were one of the few board members that was like able to contact.
Yeah, and it actually didn't, your first message didn't, my spam got it as well the first time.
Yeah.
The second time it came through. But in that email, you said something about, so I could understand a spam filter kicking it out. But you said something about calling and leaving messages.
Yes.
And to my knowledge, because I asked, and at least.
I don't know why the messages were not received.
Okay.
I did-
So I will tell you, Greg, I checked every machine in central office because we
It was
have.
your machine, I left it on.
I,
So, and I wasn't here to argue.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't even gonna bring that up. I had documented at the time, and I probably can find that documentation when those messages were left.
I want to make sure that you have the right extension
Okay,
because we literally have checked all the extensions and there were no messages found on any of our phones.
okay,
So I'd be happy to have a conversation with you after
Sure.
about that.
sure.
Or just keep trying till you get a human, because there's usually somebody there.
Right.
Yeah.
If you dial 10, you're always going to get a human during
Yeah.
working hours.
Yeah.
Just because I got a little worked up because that nobody was responding to you also, so,
Well, and I appreciate it being taken care of.
and I didn't understand if you were, I could understand an email getting bounced, but I couldn't understand why messages, if you were actually talking to a person, how could these messages be getting
I was
lost?
I was leaving messages, like you said, during business hours.
Okay,
I work extended hours, so a lot of times I leave a message for somebody, especially if you send out an email and 10 minutes later follow it up with a phone call, might be sending the email at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and then follow it up with a message on a machine. I don't know what's happened.
Okay.
I'm not concerned with that anymore. I think we've solved that. I hope we've solved that. But I wanted to bring the numbers to your guys' attention. Because every board obviously is concerned about saving money here and there. There was one bill in here for Enosburg, although I think it may have included multiple towns. For the month of January, that was almost $800. If you can save 40% off $800, that's a significant amount, I would think.
okay.
So do you want me to, I can throw a little background too, which you can decide this later on, but I want Craig to be here so that he feels free to rebut any of it. employment ads, for teachers, we advertise in School Spring, which we have an annual subscription, so those tend to go there. For support staff employees, that's really driven by the principals, so they tell us where they want to print. I think we do print some in the Courier and some in the Messenger. And honestly, I don't know what the breakdown is between them. Probably often we publish in both. So really, I think what we're talking about are the legal ads. We had been using both the Courier and the Messenger. It was probably more like 3 years ago. The drive in our office really came from some of the folks downstairs around billing and around timing of placement. Jay had been telling us that we needed to use the Courier, and at some point that stopped, and then we stopped using them, and that was 2 years ago. When Lynn came on board, one of the first things she told the folks downstairs was that we were going to start using the Courier again, and so that picked up again, and then that dropped off. I would assume that the Messenger costs more. I have not done any direct price comparison. You guys as a board have never named a paper of record. If that's something that you're interested in doing, you can direct me to gather information on that. And I would reach out to Greg and the Messenger and I guess the Free Press and ask about prices and saturation, and I'll try to come up with some other data points to give you. And we can bring that back to a future meeting.
Okay. And Morgan, do you have a figure for what the annual, for just the legal warnings are, not the employment postings? Do you break it down that way as far as what the various schools or throughout the SU were spending?
We don't break it down that way, so we'd have to weed through.
Okay.
Legal warnings have been extremely high the last 3 years with all the
Yeah.
special meetings going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And this
So-
$800 figure you're talking about, that's just specific to Enosburg for 1 month?
I don't know that it was specific to Enosburg. I do know that it was specific to 1 month. It was the month of January of this year. Of course, I'm probably gonna have a hard time putting my fingers on it.
No, it's all good, no
No,
worries.
Yeah. In the springtime, it tends to have the majority of those legal ads because each town is advertising their special meeting and their entire warning for it. That is the bulk of the legal advertising for the year. So we've already passed that for 2019. So the bulk of the legal advertising probably wouldn't happen again until the spring of 2020, or late winter of 2020 anyway.
Yeah, it's publishing the warnings.
This might be a unique year.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it's not something, because the bulk of the advertising's happened, and probably won't happen again much right off. It's not a decision I would think you guys would have to make right off. But I think it's something that, as you guys budget and think about spending, it's something to look at.
Noted, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, moving on in instruction and learning, Jody and Jennifer.
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Not today.
Oh, okay.
How about
Moving
we
quickly.
take this time to talk about the reorganization of the curriculum piece at central office? So
Sure.
we haven't met, I don't think, since December. It's been a while since this board has met. Well, since the full board has met, it's been since December. So one of the things we talked about was reorganizing. So Jennifer is, how many days? 56-ish?
Oh, yeah, like 53.
She might be
Who's
on a
counting?
countdown to July 1.
Exactly.
53, but who's counting? I'm not keeping track, she says.
She is partially retiring. So we're pleased, you negotiated with her to stay on for the equivalent of 2 days per week. So Jody is going to be the director of curriculum and instruction and learning. That's what it is. We have some new acronyms that I don't quite have up here yet. So we have one position that's not yet been filled at central office. So that is an instruction and learning specialist position. So we had talked about taking part of what was left from Jennifer and hiring someone not on a full year contract, but doing something a little more than a teacher's contract. So we have it advertised, we have a few candidates, and we're hoping in the next few weeks to begin that process to hire someone for that role. So anything either of you would like to add about how we're reorganizing?
We have ideas of what parts of jobs might make sense for the new person.
For example, it makes sense for me to take on more of the grant piece.
And maybe let go of some of the,
Assessment, ELL maybe, depending on who we're able to hire.
Right. So whoever is, what the candidate brings to the table is gonna kind of solidify how that plays it out.
Right.
And we're comfortable with that, because we can be flexible.
Yep.
So we're kind of excited about what this opportunity is going to bring to the organization, and like they said, we'll see who our candidate ends up becoming will be a driving factor in terms of who has what for roles and responsibilities as we move forward. So it's kind of an exciting time.
How long have you ladies worked together?
This is what was our 8th year, right?
I think 7,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it 7? I think it's
2012.
7. I think this is our 7th
Yeah.
year.
This is the first year. But I've been at the SU since 2010, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Anyway,
Does this feel okay to you?
Sure.
Better than 0, right?
I'm very happy for Jen
Yeah.
that she's gonna be able to do that. Yeah. Lucky.
Good.
Your turn will
I know,
come.
right? It makes me realize I'm pretty close too. Not too far away.
So Dominic was unable to be here tonight. So I'll just say a little something for Dominic. So he is in another busy time of the year. The last time we spoke or one of the last times we spoke in the fall, we talked about some of the changes to the way we were collecting and reporting data at the state level and what that was requiring of Dominic. So it's happened again this spring. There's another reporting period that we've just come through. And what's happening right now with Dominic and the work that he's doing is he's really working on kind of the work that's associated with bringing Sheldon into Franklin Northeast. So there's quite a lot of work to be done in that realm around transitioning emails. We're going to be doing some for the whole entire SU. We're going to be making a shift to a Google platform, and away from First Class. So he's kind of got a lot on his plate right now, but I'm very confident that he has a good handle on it, and he will be working with, actually his uncle is the tech coordinator in Franklin Northwest, so the two of them are working with one another on this. Did I get that right? Is it uncle?
I
always
know,
get
I
that.
didn't know that.
I believe so.
I think Robert.
Robert is his uncle.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
They could be brothers, I
His
thought.
his sister's brother, Robert's sister is his mother, is Dominic's mother.
Yes.
Well, and Robert was also our former tech coordinator.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a connection there as well.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in terms of special programs, so we have hired Michelle Taberge, who will be our new director of special programs. Sorry, Mary, I'm popping right down the list.
So upset.
Shirley Carlson, we talked about this at our last meeting, but I had never really solidified it with you, is going to stay on the equivalent of 1 day per week. We'll be able to use that time flexibly throughout the year. So I'm really excited about that because not a lot of people that go into a role like director of special programs have the ability to have a side-by-side mentor in that first year. And I think this is going to be a really important transition and really important support that we have in place for Michelle.
I like these sort of
It's
hangers on.
Michelle who?
It works well, I think, you know?
Michelle Taberge.
Me too, I think.
Yeah, right. We'll see.
So Michelle was our district evaluator, and we have filled the district evaluator position, and I don't remember the person's name.
We're not gonna really
Anyway,
complain about that either.
We're excited about who we hired. We have a really great candidate.
Morgan, can you fill in that, or?
I'm searching.
See, he's searching, we'll get it in a minute, maybe.
So Robin Gagne will be returning as Assistant Director of Special Programs. I think that there's a lot going on at central office. So I now have an administrative assistant, who we're gonna talk about a little later, who works upstairs, and she's been a really great addition to upstairs. Us having someone that can help us to navigate the volume of the work that comes through the upstairs office has been a tremendous help to all of us. So we have, in a couple of weeks, we're going to do a central office leadership retreat. So we'll have, it'll be Jody, Michelle, myself, and Robin, who will be, Jen and Shirley get to practice a little bit of the early retirement piece of this, but we're gonna be going off and doing some work.
There's no snow days pending.
No.
Last time she was away, we were like, oh my God, what if there's a snow day? I don't know what to do.
I did put Shirley and Jennifer in charge of that, and it might have been a little anxiety inducing those last 3 days before the February break, but they did a great job.
But we don't think Leah's going to that one.
What's that?
We don't think Leah's going to that one.
Leah.
Yes, nicely done there.
Yes. Now I think we could go.
You want to go back to Morgan?
I
Okay,
think this would be a good time.
all right. Morgan.
Financial reports are in your packet. No concerns at the SU or special ed level. I'm looking at the remaining special ed expenses that we are anticipating, trying to find time to go over that with Shirley. Last year, we did not assess the last month to the school districts, because we had over budgeted primarily around high-class kids. Hoping that we'll be able to do that again this year, which would mean you going under budget on the assessment line, which is normally something we hit right on, but I'm hoping that we can give you guys that little present before the end of the year, which will help some of you more than others. Unless there are any questions, that's all I have, at least on the financial reports. Lynn will probably cover Sheldon and that master agreement under yours, and then I'll chime in on that. In terms of motions, I've got a whole mess of motions that you do every year, both here and in a lot of cases at your local level. So I sent the SU audits out when I sent the town audits out, and I would like to have a motion from this board as well, accepting the FNESU FY18 financial audit.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We also need those two motions for warrants for the next year. So the first one is a motion to authorize payment of non-payroll expenses after warrants are signed by any two board members. And we tend to pull in the people in Richford to do that because they're
So
close by.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And similarly, a motion to authorize payment of payroll expenses in advance of warrants being signed by two board members, because we do that anyway.
Any two board members, correct?
Any two board members.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I also need you to name an FNESU treasurer and assistant treasurer. Last year, Mary Dusso was the treasurer and Roxanne Tanner is the assistant treasurer. Its position is slightly different this year in that the NMV board, the NMV voters, decided to name the SU treasurer as their treasurer rather than elect somebody, which will hopefully streamline bill paying pretty significantly, especially as that district is now going to cover 4 towns. We're also planning on moving all the record keeping into the SU office because the district clerk positions, which potentially could be bouncing around between town to town, really needs a place to store all those records. So we're gonna hold those in our office. So I would need a motion to name either Mary or Roxanne, I guess, or Franny as the FNESU treasurer, and then a motion to name somebody else the assistant treasurer.
Well, are you wanting to be Mary Duso?
That's fine. She's got 20 years of experience.
Well, but she has the time. That's
Yeah.
where you would go first, right?
Yeah, yeah, the time
So-
commitment
so
is
moved.
not.
Upon your recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then one for assistant treasurer.
I'll
And that's
ma-
currently
Your
Roxanne.
first, it's usually Roxanne, or has been.
Currently it's
Currently,
Roxanne.
and has been Roxanne.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the last motion I have is a motion to accept all FY20 grant funds, including but not limited to Idea B preschool, Medicaid, Title I, Title IIA, Title IV, 21st Century Learning Centers, BEST, and MAC,
But not limited to.
but not limited to.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Question, back
Yes.
to the treasurer
Mhm.
and the bills and the paperwork. Does that mean that if we start storing those documents at central office, do you have to have fireproof, storage of documents? Like deeds and so forth are kept in the, a fireproof chamber with
Yeah.
a heavy door with a lock?
We should. We have jail cells in our office.
You do?
I think we're pretty safe, so
Yeah.
we'll probably dedicate one of the
Which
filing
one, is
cabinets.
that your office? No.
Some days.
Some days, they don't let you out, do they? They lock the door. Okay. So you do have, I didn't know whether, looking at this, whether the storage requirements and how many years you have to keep records and all of that stuff will come into play.
We're pretty tight down there, so it may. But we've been actively disinheriting documents that nobody tells us we need anymore. So we're trying to free up space.
Okay, well, I know that almost all the towns will be facing that in the future at some point, that their
Yeah.
storage facilities have to be upgraded or enlarged. Because a lot of these, I don't know how long I don't know what the holding, for any of the school documents, how long do you have to keep employment records for, employee number 12,
Yeah.
Is it, they've died, the district's changed, but you still have to keep hold of it? I don't know. Anyway, you'll look into that
Yep.
and take care of that. Thank you.
That's it, eh, Morgan?
That's it. I'll
Okay.
chime in when Lynn goes.
Great. Lynn?
Okay, so I think I would like to save executive for last. So the first thing I want to say is by this point, we have talked about the master agreement at all of the local board levels. So we're at the place where we would like the SU board to ratify the master agreement. Do we have it here for signature tonight?
Yep.
Okay. So I think you would make a motion to ratify the master agreement, and then we would have the new board chair sign on behalf of the board. So we're looking for that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we also have, and I don't think the second part needs a signature. Kind of uncharted territory here. So the Sheldon teachers voted last week and they did not ratify the Franklin Northeast master agreement. We are gonna honor the Franklin Northwest master agreement for the 1920 school year. So I don't believe they have to do anything with that one. You're just gonna have to sign off on the Franklin Northeast one. But we have a little learning curve at our office that we're working through and navigating, and we will figure that out.
Yeah, the big lift for us is gonna be that we don't get to pass for another year on figuring out how to run an HRA. And that's for folks who've been listening over the last 2-3 years about all the horror stories around teacher healthcare. It's pretty much all been because of HRAs. So Jamie and I are gonna have to get schooled in that pretty quick because they will be coming with HRAs. And we sort of think that it's likely that when the state takes over or finalizes negotiation for teachers for all school employees, that at the very least there'll be an option for people to take an HRA or an HSA. So we'll have to figure it out then, but we were hoping to push that off another year.
Maybe the state will run them for you.
Probably not. Just saying. It would be nice.
So, the last piece about negotiations is the support staff ratified. So you do not have to vote to ratify because you do not yet have any support staff under your supervision. So we're not
This board.
looking, right, we're not
Correct.
looking for
Okay,
that
gotcha.
motion there. I put Act 46 as a placeholder in case anything that had come up. Sent out information about the split decision from last week, and I've had a lot of you boards in the last week and a half, I think almost all of you in the last week and a half, but does anybody have any questions or anything they want to talk about with the split decision, what that means, or organization, or any other questions? Or have we just simply talked about it enough? Okay. So, under other, I want to talk about, so we typically have 186 student days. And this is a little misstep on my part. I really should have come to you and asked about exempting a student day for a professional development day. So what I've already communicated that we're going to do this because I didn't realize I should have come to you, so I apologize. So instead of having 186 student days this year, would like to let the students out on that Friday and have it be 185 student days and add an additional teacher professional development day into the following week. That would be for everyone with the exception of Berkshire, who they actually owe an additional snow day because they had a water issue in September. So they'll be going to school on that Monday. And then we'll have an SU-wide in service on Tuesday.
176.
Oh yeah, wrong number. We have 176 student days, and we're asking to change that to 175 for this year.
So you're proposing the last day of school is what day? The date?
On a
Maybe that
Friday.
June 15th.
June 14th, okay.
June, is it 14th?
Do you want me to look up the number?
It felt like it.
It's not July 14th?
July 13th.
Feels
Is that right? Yeah.
Still feels like January.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So
Not,
I'm hopeful at this point where, although I was a little nervous last night when I let the dog out and saw what was happening.
Yeah, no kidding.
I thought we were through that anxiety-inducing snow that comes.
well, there's still time.
Lynn, do you need a motion for
Yeah,
that?
it would be good to have a motion to
Yeah.
accept that one student day
Yeah.
and turn it into a professional development day.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I think the rest is gonna fall under personnel.
What we just discussed, was that the 1920 school calendar?
No.
Okay,
Oh, shit, I did not bring that.
I didn't think so,
Hold
but
on, I'm going
I,
to print that.
Taking the whole month of January off?
How about after executive session, I'll have this printed
easier.
and we can come back to the calendar.
On the minutes.
Who
Someone make a
voted
motion
out
to
of
exit
executive?
executive.
I did.
Yes, yeah,
At 8:05.
at 8:05 to exit
Second,
executive
if you want.
session.
Dan seconded. Pretty much everybody said aye.
So, the first motion is regarding the, religious observance days for Claudia Woodward to, for next year.
1920 for 9 unpaid leave.
Additional.
Not 9 unpaid additional days for her religious observance.
I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Second motion is.
I don't remember.
Student days?
30 unpaid
No.
days.
Oh, Courtney.
Oh, yes,
Oh, that's-
right.
Oh,
So
right.
we need a motion to grant
Courtney Fletcher,
Courtney Fletcher, FML,
unpaid.
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 Unpaid leave for
Up to,
up to 30 days.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
aye.
And the final motion we need to make is
Well, it
to,
was really good knowing you, Morgan.
is to grant Morgan Daybell unpaid vacation.
No,
No.
unpaid.
I'm sorry, paid vacation days.
We're
Sorry.
going on an unpaid
Paid.
vacation.
So
really
we're
just
gonna-
twisting
How do
it
you
around.
want to word
I
that?
think
Any
what you're-
unused,
Any unused vacation days on June 30th will be paid out to Morgan at the end of the school year.
Beyond the limit that can,
What's
Yeah,
that?
that you,
Beyond the
beyond the
limit
limit
that-
you can roll over.
they can roll over.
So you're
Paid
not
for
gonna
anything
pay
you don't-
Is that
up
clear
to
enough for you?
36, but-
clear as mud.
Clear as mud, that's about it. We're authorizing to.
So we need that
Redeem.
motion.
And when you do go on vacation, I'll buy the first drink.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don't cancel any plans.
I am on vacation for the next 10 hours.
So, future agenda items, are anything that ought to be on the July, and do we know that date yet, Lynn?
We do not know that date. I'll send something
Okay.
out. We haven't tried
Okay.
to establish those dates yet.
And that will then be the new reorganization
Right.
as well?
Right.
Okay.
I know you mentioned after July 1, but did you mean like in July?
In July.
She's hoping for
Will the
August,
meeting
May,
be in
September.
July, you think?
Will it be a July meeting or
There's a
might it be
difference
in
between the
September?
July meeting and after July 1, which could be August.
Right, or October.
Well, it can't be that late.
Okay. It would be in
I
July?
think there's a reason it has to be in July.
Okay.
At this point in the day, I'm not
Not clear
remembering what
why.
that
It's
reason
okay.
is, but I will make sure I look into that before, because I think there's some, at your reorganization meeting, there's some things that we're gonna just need to do to prep us, because this is an odd, new, strange territory
Yeah.
with the merge, so.
The whole merger
We'll push to
process.
August if we can, but if not, we'll need to call it in July, but honestly, we have not had time to attend to.
Yeah, that's okay.
these.
You're only the vice chair if you can't make it. you know.
I know, that's right.
Any other items to discuss? Motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Everyone.